Here with us now, I'm pleased to say we have Oscar de Bach, DHL Supply Chain CEO. Oscar, it's great to have you with me. So not commenting specifically on what's going on in ocean and air, which I know that you're not involved in, but what has the spillover been from the Red Sea to your business?
Yeah, I think what it actually the impact that it has, we manage the supply chain for our customers, and obviously what you see is we need to help our customers to find alternative ways to get the goods to the market. And on the one hand, you have obviously the delays because of the way ships sailing, but on the other hand, you need to find different modes of transport. Some customers we move to air freight, some customers we actually move even to the combination of intermodal and ships. So there's various modes that we have to find. At the same time, we have to also, together with our customers, really look at how you store. So that's another element. But I think overall, what it really reconfirms once more is a point that I often make, which is what I call omni-sourcing, which basically means that when you look at global supply chains since the past 3-4 years, companies, many of our customers, have to rethink on how you organize your supply chain. And you can't simply base it on one point of source for a strategic part or product. You have to have more source points. And that's actually what you see happening at the moment in the overall supply chain market.
Well, I definitely want to get to that topic of nearshoring, adding multiple, of course, sources there, like you say. But when it comes to the Red Sea, you talk about the contingency plan that your customers are putting in place. How long are they preparing for? When it comes to this turmoil, what is the base case that they're baking in for how long this could last?
Yeah, it's a lot of guesswork, but I think and that's the main point, I think, with managing supply chains in today's world, is you have to work with various scenarios and you have to create an agile and flexible solution. And because there's theories that this will take for a longer time. There's ways where you can say, well, maybe for a part I need to have alternative modes of transport, like I was mentioning earlier, going for intermodal, air, etc. So for how long they perceive that this is going to take, many of our customers think that this is for quite a while still there. And at least you have to plan accordingly, so in order not to fall short on stock in the near season, in the upcoming seasons. Because if you make a simple count, it takes 10 days extra, as you know, with the present route around the Cape. That actually means that you have to up your stock levels in order to cope with that. So that is something that you now need to plan ahead, or you say, well, if I take that part of it, I might actually use alternative ways of transport in order to cover that part. Now, that depends very much on the type of products and the type of sectors. I read this morning that even in the fashion sector from Bangladesh, you see more flights out now actually in order to cover that with air freight, which is obviously not a solution you would normally think of. So you see that there's various alternatives that are being used by our customers at the moment to find solutions both for the very short term, but also look at the mid and the long term to have a sustainable solution that can also cover what's next to come in supply chain disruption.
Well, like you said, a lot of guesswork there, but obviously with some big important implications when it comes to bottom lines. Let's also talk a little bit more, though, about nearshoring and, of course, that trend. Like you said, a lot of companies looking for different points to which they can source from. What countries, what regions have been the biggest beneficiary of that?
Yeah, you see a lot of, and I always call it, instead of nearshoring, I call it omni-sourcing, because many of our customers would make sure that they don't gamble on one point, but at more than one point to always have alternatives. But to answer your question on which geographies do we see that most on, now, obviously we very much see it in Mexico. If you look at even yesterday we opened a large new facility, at least we break ground on a large new facility in Mexico, and it's one of many of which we see a lot of take, obviously many investments that go in that direction. But apart from Mexico, you also see big investments going in countries like Malaysia, where you see specifically on the semicon industry, you see major investments going to that direction. We see a lot of things happening in Vietnam, but also a market like India is fast changing its trade, similar to what we see in Brazil.
And I do also want to talk about China. Of course, China also looming large in this conversation around supply chains. And so far this earnings season, I mean, just today we heard from L'Oreal talking about sluggish demand from Chinese consumers. How are you seeing China's sluggish economy, sluggish recovery turning up in your business?
Yeah, I think China is obviously, well, for us, it is very much about helping our customers to find a solution. And but obviously, you see that the volumes are different from what they used to be. But on the other hand, the Chinese economy remains a very important one. So therefore, our customers remain very much focused on China. But indeed, there is a bit of guesswork on how fast will that catch up. We're going to see a little bit after this weekend of Chinese New Year how then the volumes are going to be over there. So it is also there. It is you have to balance it between the midterm view and what's happening today and yesterday. And I think that's very much what's happening at the moment, because it remains a very important market. You need to be ready, you need to be there, you need to continue to invest in that market, and that's what you see our customers are doing. But it is a bit of patience on what is really happening on the short term there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a conversation that companies across industries are having right now. I do want to talk about warehouses. Of course, I don't need to tell you that the real estate market for warehouse properties, it was extremely tight during the pandemic. Where do we stand now, both when it comes to prices and availability of some of those properties?
Yeah, you see an interesting development in real estate, because you see that there's less volume being developed at the moment. While at the same time, complexities of supply chains continues to evolve. So we're fast, therefore, heading towards a scarcity of capacity also there still pretty soon. So that's, for instance, why we continue to make our investments in specifically logistics real estate. And also because there's more and more requirements to go closer to the end consumer. So therefore, the whole profile of where warehouses and logistics centers or fulfillment centers, whatever name you want to give it, but where they need to be. They need to be more and more closer to urban areas. So there's two trends. On the one hand, less development happening at the moment, which means that there is an indication of scarcity coming up. And at the same time, there's different locations where actually logistics centers are needed because of, specifically if I look at the US market, because we need to be closer to the end consumer.
And Oscar, just quickly here, what about wages? Are warehouse worker wages still going up?
Yeah, you've seen obviously, I think we had the biggest part of that season because over the past 2 years you had a major scarcity in labor. That is settling in at the moment, so that is sort of stabilizing more on that perspective. I think the biggest hurdle on that one we've seen already. But I think on the other hand, it remains always a challenge with availability, and that's where I think you also see the balance between staffing and robotic solutions, digital collaborative robotic solutions. If I take for instance ourselves, last high season, we had investment in less number of people while we were doing similar volumes, but because of the investments in robotic solutions that we've done there. So you see the collaborative robotics is also helping out on the scarcity of labor, and at the same time the labor market is sort of settling in, so that pressure is getting less.
Well, we're going to have a bigger conversation on that relationship, hopefully soon. Oscar, really enjoyed this. That, of course, is Oscar de Bach of DHL Supply Chain.